Come on. Did you really, really think it was going to be any different? This is Tottenham Hotspur, right? We've been doing it the hard way since 1882. So if you was expecting an easy ride, a nice 5-0 win, you're looking at the wrong team. It's never going to happen. But listen, in all seriousness, phew, thank God that's over. Another really difficult watch. Even though we end up winning 3-1, it was difficult, tough to watch, disappointing, and clearly, and we've said it before, and I guess Conte has to, he has to utilise all the tools that he's got in his box, right? And if that means using Dele Alli, Lo Celso, Ndombele and so on, then that's what he's going to have to do. Big game Wednesday, got Chelsea. We need that to be able to get us into that next stage. Into the final. Today's game was an important game because we want to win, we want to progress. But as well as I do, that these players that we've got should be putting them to the sword, right? Dele Alli, one of the brightest talents in European football at one point, today, poor, nothing in the game. Lo Celso, 30 million or whatever it is we paid for him, he spent more time on the floor, tripping, slipping, falling over than any other player. Ndombele, our, priciest ever player, and yet he was getting absolutely bullied all game by McLaughlin, I think his name was. Getting nowhere. In terms of creativity, this guy's a creative midfield player who created sweet Fanny Adams. Absolute nothing. He may as well have not even been on the pitch. You wouldn't have done any worse without him, to be honest. So I'm done with that guy. I literally am done with that guy. He seems so uninterested and so lackluster and bored. It's just not happening. I just don't get it. It's almost like he don't care. He don't care. He ran around a bit at some points, but even coming off, when you watch him coming off, he even came off slow. We're losing the game and he's meandering around like, why not? Who cares? And then, you're looking at it, you think to yourself, this is, we're getting nowhere. Fair play to Morecambe, right? Good goal. They scored a good goal. Great ball in. Tanganga's got to do better again. Loses his man, fires it home. Galini doesn't move. That's it. And you expect that to spark us into life, but it didn't. Not really. We huffed, we puffed, we pushed. But the reality is we just weren't good enough, with that team that we had out there. And that team should be able to beat a League One team. End of. Maybe we shouldn't have played so many players. Maybe we should have, rested so many. But the reality is, you got Chelsea on Wednesday. What else is he going to do? He's got to do something, right? And to be fair, Brian, I thought, worked really hard, really trying, really put the pressure in. Sessegnon, up and down the wing, working hard. Final ball, not great. But then the second half, he was switched to the right, which I get it. He wants to cut in and use his left foot. But, it was so congested there. Morecambe, they had their lead and they were just going to hang on to it for the whole of the game if they could. So for me, it made no sense to do that because it was just becoming more, tighter and tighter. You needed the width. Doherty again, even against the League One team, looks like he's out of place, not good enough. So yeah, Rondon, rusty, clearly rusty. Couple of mistakes in him that could have cost us against a better side. So for me, really, really disappointing. Lucky for us, we have got the likes of Lucas and Kane who can come on, Skip who can come on and change the game and give us that win that actually makes it look a lot better than it really was. Fair play to Winks, got a goal, great goal. Clearly wasn't playing for it. He was just trying to cross it into a really dangerous area. Goes in, gets us back on level terms. Great, brilliant. Well, cool for him because, he deserves a goal with his performances of late. And then you've got Lucas, who didn't give it up, pushed and pushed, didn't give it up, nicked it off of their player, and ghosted it in, even took the keeper on. I mean, he had Kane stood aside him who he could have just put it across for an empty goal. But, fair play to him. He finished it, so you take it. And then, Emerson getting the ball into Kane at the end. Kane, just shows his class, gets tight to him, but nice, easy turn, plays the ball. 3-1, game over, and Morecambe's hearts are broken. Fair enough. I'm happy for that. And we move on to the next game, but it really does show, and it has shown for the last all season really, but certainly over the last few weeks for Conte, that how difficult it's going to be for him to get this team anywhere, to take them anywhere, when, the backup you've got is not good enough. Might be okay if you can chuck an odd one here and there. It'd be good to see Brian get a few, some time playing with Kane and Son and those sorts of players, Mora, because I think he is a talent. Sessegnon, again, I think he can do a job on the left-hand side. But, there is definite need for new blood in there, and I'm sure Antonio Conte knows that, and I'm sure that Daniel Levy knows that. The reality is we've always spent money on potential rather than proven, and that's been our downfall, because, you need people that are going to come, you want to buy players that are going to go into the first team, not players who might go into the first team in the future. You need them to be able to go into that first team now because it's crying out for it. But hey, listen, I'll take it. 3-1, we move on. We're into the next round. Let's see who we get in the next round. And we'll go from there. We now look forward to the Chelsea game, and hopefully he can put as strong a team out as possible. But for the love of God, we need to get shifting some of these players that are holding places that could free up some money for us to be able to buy something a bit decent. But in Conte we trust. Up the Spurs.